Alright, so what I'm going to do next is after I run that, the concentrate, after I do the cleanup on those 2 yards of pay dirt, what I'm thinking of doing is, I have this big stockpile over here, over this, well, there's the camp right there, and here's the stockpile. Not really sure where this stockpile came from. They say there's been workings here. It was a hydraulic pit, but I'll show you right over here. It's kind of an old hydraulic pit, and apparently the people that were working here, who knows who they, don't have no idea who they were, but apparently they got kicked off because something like their settling pond broke and all the fine tailings went into the, or all the silt went into the creek. So the story is they got kicked off. But so here's it's kind of a cliff. It's kind of less like a hydraulic pit. So they've been doing big water monitors, I guess, and they were just kind of spraying the hillside, washing it all down into a sluice box, I assume. So how that was going. Like I said, it's kind of hard to tell because this whole area, it was open at one point. I've seen some pictures from a couple owners before of the claim on some of their work reports, and that whole area with all those willows and everything was clear. But in the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years or whatever it was, a lot of this is grown in. Like, this used to be all cleared out according to the pictures I've seen, but it's all grown in with these willows, which is kind of annoying. They're hard to deal with, especially when you're just doing handwork. But I did a few shovelfuls, or I did a few the first time I was ever here, before I even owned the claim. I did some work out of this pile, and a little bit over here you can see I have all the markers and wood and stuff, and the marking paint. But I never really found much in here so far, but I never really ran many yards in here to really be able to tell. So all I've really ever run is, out of any quantity, is up by the camp there last year and this year. So what I think I'm going to do is, so my original plan this year before I came was, I had it all in the work reports and stuff, is one, I was going to have a little mini backhoe I was going to buy, but I didn't end up buying it just due to didn't have enough money. But the plan was, which I had in the work report, is because I have that settling pond over there for the work over there, but I got this pile, and I don't know how many yards this would be, but it's a lot of moving it to go over. Not that I would move this pile very fast anytime soon, but by hand. But it's a lot of movement to go over there. But in a wheelbarrow. So the original plan was this little area here. I mean, plan was to leave enough space to get a vehicle through, but have all this area. I was going to dig it out and make another settling pond right here. And the creek is kind of that way, and I didn't know at the time, but I figured out this trip that there's a kind of a trail that goes this way, and I found a bunch of stuff over there, like a bunch of old grates and punch plates and expanded metal and some 4-inch and 3-inch hose, which I was going to take it all out and bring it all out here, but I figured I'm not using it now. Might as well just leave it all in there. It's kind of hidden in there. No one's probably going to find it. If I bring it out here, then I got to hide it somewhere else. I figured since I'm not using it, I'll just leave it over there. But so my original plan was, to have this tailings pond here, and the creek is just that way, and I had a 3-inch pump. I have it. It's just over still hidden in the bush over there, and the suction hose just over there. But I was going to dig the settling pond here, and then pump water with a 3-inch pump up the hill, and into the settling pond, and then I can run this stuff out of the settling pond. But I tried right here. I tried with the shovel, just seeing how much work it would be to build a settling pond here, and the amount of, it took me a few seconds to dig this hole, but to dig a big settling pond by hand, and I got to put it in a wheelbarrow and move it, and I'm not sure if this is pay dirt or tailings, but I don't want to just throw it away. I want to stockpile it. I want to run it and at least test it to see if there's any gold in it on the ground right here. So but I figured with the amount of time I have here, if I try to dig a settling pond here by hand, it's going to take so long. I'm not going to get any actual anything run for the trommel very much. So I decided I'm not going to do much of this pile this year. Just going to work over there. But one thing I do want to do is I want to at least try to take 2 yards, you know, 2 yards, maybe 3 yards out of this pile and wheelbarrow it over there and just run it through the trommel just as a test, just to get an idea what's in this pile. I mean, this could all be tailings for all I know. So might not have any gold in it, but so I just want to test this a little bit. It'll be a little bit of work wheelbarrowing it up there, but for this trip this year, it's going to be easier than just digging a settling pond by hand. And maybe next year I'll have a backhoe, maybe I won't. I don't know what'll happen, but all right. So I'm going to go clean up the sluice box over here, and I will show you, and I'll show you from there. Oh, and over here, I got this is kind of my little brush pile. I'm just going to pile it over here. It's kind of out of the way for now. The brush pile from everything I cut up, all the willows I cut where the camp is, all the willows I'm ripping down from the cliffside when I'm working, they just go in that brush pile. And just kind of think someday if I ever get a piece of equipment in here, a skid steer, an excavator, things like that things like that can just easily be dealt with at the time really quickly. Another thing with this trommel is because ultimately I can't run, compared to running equipment and bigger wash plants, I can't really run that much pay dirt. I mean, I'm running a yard per hour through this trommel, which is a lot more than I can do with this high banker. But if you compare it to, excavators and bigger equipment, the amount that I'm going to run through this is not very much. So the plan is if I ever get a bigger wash plant, and if I ever get excavators or backhoes or whatever, or skid steers or whatever it may be, then I'm just gonna run all this stuff I've run. That pile was run last year. That pile was run last year. And of course, this is the coarse tailings, the fine tailings. If I ever get an excavator, a skid steer, anything like that, I'm just gonna run all this and this, because this is like days of work for me, but right now. But if I ever get a piece of equipment that can run all this in an hour or so, so that's the plan. If I ever get anything bigger, I'm just gonna rerun it in case I didn't find any gold, because it is catching gold, but there's certain things that like how the water's coming off here, certain things, and even some of the rocks might not be 100% washed. I don't know, but in the future then I can just run this again sometime if I ever have a bigger piece of equipment, and just, if there was anything left, it won't be very expensive to run, and might as well catch it. So these kind of have to go into a certain order, so after I clean them out, I'm going to kind of lay them out in the order they go in, so I don't got to figure it out next time when I put this back together. You'll see what I mean when I video it. Wedge is going to put them in the same order. We got about 4.4 hours in the trommel so far. Doesn't really sound like a lot, but you know, you can only do like maybe 150 shovelfuls, lifting it up and pouring it in before your arms get tired. You gotta take a quick break, so you gotta shut it down. Then you can't really dig out of the cliffside because you don't really want it right into the trommel, because you don't really want, you know, you want clean water to become going through your spray bars, but you don't want the water going through your sluice box to be clean. What I mean by that is you always want dirt going through your trommel, because I'm not sure exactly how it works, but the hay dirt in the water going through your sluice box kind of slows the water down a little bit, and once that's clean water going through your sluice box, at least I think this is how it works anyway, and once there's clean water going through your sluice box, it kind of makes it a little more run faster, a little more aggressive, and it can wash gold out, especially the fine gold. Not so much the coarse gold, but the fine gold. And sometimes that's how I'm doing it here. It's kind of hard to avoid that, but best way to avoid that for the most part is to excavate all the dirt and put it in a pile by your sluice box, because to just take it out of the hillside, sometimes it's so packed over the years you can't shovel it that quick, and between shovelfuls you already got clean water going through your sluice box, and you're probably washing gold out. So yeah, 4.4 hours doesn't seem like a lot, but there's around that 4.4 hours, there's a bunch of hours doing excavation work, taking rests around the campfire because your arms are sore from shoveling. It's kind of the reality of doing it by hand. If you're doing it by a piece of equipment, you can go all day, you know, in a nice air-conditioned cab or whatever, but if you're doing it by hand like this, it's kind of the best you can do sometimes. When you're walking by around the sluice box, you want to be careful you don't kick the legs of the sluice box, and then it messes everything up. Got to readjust everything and all that. You guys can fast forward the video here if you want. This is going to be a kind of a long process, so you can fast forward it to whatever spot you want if you like. Found a hook off one of my bungee cords. Put up here before I lose it. I think I can already, well, I can't see it right now, but I've already seen a couple pieces of gold in there before, so hopefully they're still in there. Already got these messed up, so whatever. These off. You know, theoretically, you could just run a lot of dirt, and you don't have to do cleanups every 2 yards or whatever. But just for purposes of I just want to test. I'm kind of testing out, and not really. Yeah, it's more of a testing. It's gonna test it out for future prospects or whatever. It's kind of get an idea. You know, in the future, if I was ever to go rent a piece of like an excavator or something like that at the cost of renting them, this kind of gives me an idea on how much I could run with that excavator, on how much, basically if I can run 10 yards an hour with the excavator, how many dollars per yard am I getting out of this spot, and is it worth it? Or is this spot just worth it by doing it by hand like this? One wedge is getting a little stubborn. There, got it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, as I said, I'm going to test out, do this in 2 different sections just for an experiment here. So I'm going to pull I guess I got to move this wheelbarrow a little bit. Very carefully. just take your time and do a good job at this, because this is where all your gold is going to be. Do all that work, you don't want to lose anything. So. Roll up this mat carefully in the water. Spin it around. Take your time, make sure you work everything out. Here you do the carpets. Nice and clean. And you see how you got the rubber bottom on these carpets? So this carpet's the farthest point the gold can go. It can't go past the carpet. And with the wedges, you keep everything down really tight, because everything is compressed down, so there's no spaces that the gold can work its way out of. Alright, so that's that. I won't videotape doing the top match because it's the exact same thing, but I'll do that. I'll do this whole system after with the I'll do this whole system with the bottom mats on video. Then I'll do everything with the top mats, and then I'll show you the gold with everything once it's all done, because it's all the same process. You don't need to see it twice. So now, very carefully, not too fast, but just pour the water out. So only water is going out, not your sediment. Now the gold shouldn't go out because it's too heavy, but just carefully dump the water out of the wheelbarrow. You can shake the wheelbarrow back and forth a little bit. Help the gold go down. Slowly get rid of the water. And the one thing I have to do once I got all these mats, is there will be a little bit of dirt on the bottom of this sluice box. I need to carefully wash that down into a gold pan or something, and then just pan that out. I'll show you that at the end. Alright, so this is what you get for the concentrate out of the bottom mats. So now I'm going to take that and run it through that sluice box.